When we read through the Proverbs, we need to continually remind ourselves that it's not just a collection of good advice on how to live a successful and happy life. The Proverbs are continually pointing us to how to live a life with godly wisdom and how to walk through life in righteousness. In today's reading from Proverbs 14 to 15, it's very clear that to walk in godly wisdom is not a matter of doing the right things, it's a matter of having the right heart. It's not about saying things that are true. It's about actually being honest. It's not about giving things to the poor. It's about being generous and loving your neighbor. It's not about holding your tongue. It's about being slow to anger. Jesus says in Mark chapter 12 that all of the commands of the Old Testament can be summed up in two statements. Love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your mind and with all your strength. And love your neighbor as yourself. See, when our hearts are in the right place, we will obey the Lord. When our hearts are in the right place, we will live with godly wisdom. Throughout the Proverbs, we're told that having godly wisdom begins with acknowledging God as God. Because I didn't create myself. I don't have the strength or the wisdom to know how to find life for myself, or even to figure out what life is actually about. Nobody does. Proverbs 14 verse 12 says, "There is a way that seems right to a man, but in the end, it's the way of death." But in verse 26 he says, "In the fear of the Lord there is strong confidence," because he says, the fear of the Lord is a fountain of life, and it turns a person away from the snares of death. Now again, the fear of the Lord doesn't mean we're afraid of the Lord as if we think he's going to do something to harm us. No, the fear of the Lord comes from a heart that has a deep reverence and a deep respect for the Lord. A heart that knows that God is God. A heart that trusts not only in his wisdom, but in his goodness and in his love. And one of the biggest indicators of the state of our heart is the way that we use our tongues. Chapter 15, verse 1, "A gentle answer turns away wrath, but a harsh word stirs up anger." Verse 2, "The tongue of the wise makes knowledge acceptable, but the mouth of fools spouts folly." Verse 4, "A soothing tongue is a tree of life, but perversion in it crushes the spirit." Verse 23, "A man has joy in an apt answer, and how delightful is a timely word." Verse 28, "The heart of the righteous ponders how to answer, but the mouth of the wicked pours out evil things." Saying the right words begins with having the right heart. Chapter 14, verse 29, "He who is slow to anger has great understanding, but he who is quick-tempered exalts folly." Verse 30, "A tranquil heart is life to the body, but passion is rottenness to the bones." That's why Jesus said when we speak, it's the overflow of what is currently in our hearts. That's why James tells us in James chapter 3 that if we can control our tongues, we can control our entire being. And he says it's all about the wisdom that we're living by. The wisdom of the world, he says, is all about selfish ambition. It's focused on me and what I want and what I think is best. And verse 16 says that kind of wisdom leads to disorder and every kind of evil thing. But the wisdom that comes from God, he says, is filled with love, and it's focused on the needs of others. He says it is pure and peaceable and gentle and full of mercy. So there is a way that seems right to a man, but in the end, it's the way of death. But in the fear of the Lord, there is strong confidence, because the fear of the Lord is the fountain of life.